Recently, I had been in a restaurant, and as I came out to my car, I realized that my trunk was ajar. I got a little bit nervous because I'm going to tell you, I had my backpack in there, I had money in there, and it was just sitting up a little bit. I went straight to the trunk and realized nobody had touched anything, so that was a good thing. So I just shut the trunk. The moment I shut it, I heard a click and it opened back up. So I shut it again. It opened back up. I shut it again and it opened back up a third time. Now I realized I had a full blown conundrum on my hand. How was I going to drive if I couldn't shut the trunk? So I realized that maybe it will lock itself if I put the car in gear and start it. So I started it up, put it in neutral, set the emergency brake, went back out, shut the trunk, and it stayed shut. And I thought, okay, maybe something just needs to be reset. So I drove away and had to make a stop on the way home. And so I stopped at the store, and as soon as I put the car in park, guess what? Bam, trunk opens up. And I thought, what in the world? So I put it back in neutral again, shut the trunk, left, and got home. As soon as I pulled into my driveway, put the car in park, bam, trunk comes up again. And now I am completely puzzled. I looked on the internet briefly and I thought, I don't know what this is. It's bizarre. And so I looked and I thought maybe it was a trunk latch and I fooled around with that. And I realized I just didn't have the time to do it that evening and it was getting dark. So I went to the hood, got underneath it, disconnected the battery cable, shut the trunk, and that was it. And I thought, well, maybe the battery will reset it. It was an electrical issue. So the next morning I hooked the battery back up and the trunk stayed shut, at least for a little bit. As I got in the car, I looked and realized that my something was wrong with the battery itself in my car. So I went by the place to get a battery. They put it in complimentary. They checked it and said, "Oh yes, sir, you got a bad battery." And I thought, "Well, that's got to be it. I got a bad battery. It was some kind of weird electrical thing. Everything is fine." They put the battery in. I went to the paint store, got some more paint, came back home, and I thought, "Okay, that was it." All of a sudden, as I'm walking back in to my house, I heard that familiar click. Boom, trunk was open again. I walked back out. Boom, trunk was open again. So I came in, put the paint down, and started looking at it again. And I went on the internet and I thought, I wonder if it's the key fob because my key fob, well, is a little problematic. I'm going to show it to you. Don't make fun of me. Look how broken it is. There and there and there. And then that's the trunk right there. So it's half broken. So I suddenly went and I looked online and people were having the same difficulty. So I pulled the key fob apart and then shut the trunk and it stayed shut because it wasn't making contact. So suddenly I realized now, by the way, I realized a long time ago I needed a new key fob. But it's those little things that you go, well, I'll replace it, I'll replace it, I'll replace it. And then you don't. So I called the dealership and they said it was going to be with a discount, $279, and they would program it. No problem. They ordered it. And so I went in. So I took the battery out, been driving the car, having to be careful. Now, the funny thing that happens is when you lock your door and you use on the key fob, I used on my car, the emergency key to get in, it would set off the anti-theft alarm. And so then every time I would get in my car, it would start honking the horn until I made contact with the key fob onto the push start button, and then I was fine. So it was a hoot driving around with this car. I went into the dealership just this past week, and as I got in there, I told the guy, I want to get the key fob, and he says, "Okay, well, you're going to pay me. Here's the invoice. You'll pay me. Once you pay me, take it over to service, and they will program it for you, and then you can pay them." And I said, "Whoa, time out, back up." I said, "Did you say I'm paying you 279, and then I'm going to take it over to service, and they're going to program, and I'm going to pay them?" And he said, "Well, yeah." I said, "Well, how much is it to program?" He said, "Oh, that's another $200." I said, "You got to be kidding me! I don't think my car's worth $500 because it's a." And I gave the particular name of the particular make of the vehicle, and the guy just looked at me, and I said, "Send the key fob back." And he said, "I can't." I go, "Well, I'm not paying for it. Have a good day." And I walked out. They wanted over almost $500 for me to get the key fob. So I went back on the internet again, and sure enough, I found a mobile key company that would come out and do the key fob, and they did the whole thing sitting in my office parking lot in less than about 30 minutes. And I got the key fob, the programming, and everything. Now it's a universal key fob for about $250, and I gave the guy a $25 tip. Now, here's the thing. I laughed when I left, but then I realized a lot of this could have been avoided by me. It could have been avoided by me because I didn't pay attention to the little things. Number one, I had two key fobs. I don't know where the other one went. I, at some point, realized I put it in a drawer somewhere and I can't find it anywhere. Now, you know what's going to happen. Murphy's Law says I'm going to find it now. That's how it goes. But when I thought about it, and I realized I didn't take good enough care of this key fob, and so it kept breaking apart, breaking apart. Maybe it was washed, it was dropped. I wasn't watching what was going on with it, and I didn't pay much attention to it. And that is the problem. The problem is when we don't pay attention to the small stuff. I've experienced this with my house too. You know, those little projects that you keep ignoring and you keep ignoring and you keep ignoring, and suddenly they become a big problem. So, so one of the things that I was reminded of this, even as I'm getting older, I realized the little things are what matters because if you ignore the little things, they turn into the big things and they can cost you a lot more money, a lot more time, and a lot more angst if you're not careful. So paying attention to the details up front, taking care of the things that are in front of you that you don't think are going to matter now are going to matter later. And if you're not sure about that, just remember my case of the faulty fob.